Hi, folks. Today we're going to talk about are failed relationships a waste of time? For those of you who have been dating for a long time, maybe for months and years, it can feel overwhelming and discouraging. You finally meet someone special and think this time he or she is the right one. You begin to invest your time, emotions, and money getting to know your partner and hoping for the best. Then, weeks or months later, either one or both of you realize things are not going to work out for whatever reason and then decide to end the relationship. Sometimes, even the best of intentions and commitment to your partners, your relationships still fail. You then try again, meet someone new, and start the whole dating process again. After several relationship breakups, it's very understandable why many of you may begin to feel discouraged or burnt out from the dating scene. Some of you may even wonder if failed relationships are a waste of time. Today, we're going to talk about this topic. Are failed relationships a waste of time? Before we dive into this, let me first propose that we radically change our perspective on how we view failed relationships. A famous quote by Albert Einstein states, "Failure is success in progress." Let me repeat that again. Failure is success in progress. And these amazing words of wisdom mean simply that experiencing setbacks is all part of the journey of success. The setbacks are the stepping stones of progress toward achieving success. The key to success is overcoming the setbacks and failures, learning what didn't work, and continue moving forward to keep trying until finding what does work. Let me say it again. The setbacks are the stepping stones of progress toward achieving success. The key to success is overcoming the setbacks and failures, learning what didn't work, and continuing moving forward to keep trying until finding what does work. It's learning the lessons along the way and that add to your personal and spiritual growth. So let's view relationships as not a waste of time, but what I refer to as a teacher of progress. And by the spelling of the word progress, here is the new way of how I would like all of us to view the ending of every relationship. Okay, so we're going to do by the spelling of the word progress. So P is personal growth. Each relationship motivates you for self-improvement in the areas of your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Though your connection through your connection and relationships, you can develop self-awareness, improve your communication skills, and learn to be empathetic and caring for your partners. Relationships can inspire you to set new goals, cultivate a growth-oriented mindset of positivity and resiliency. Overall, personal growth leads to creating new habits that nurture your well-being, inspiring you to pursue your potential in both personal and professional achievements, and overcoming challenges to become the best version of yourselves. Okay, so if you think back on whenever you meet somebody new, we always put our best foot forward, right? And it's that kind of positive, good feeling mindset that drives us towards personal growth. We want to put our best foot forward. We It makes us feel hopeful and happy, right, for every new relationship. And most of us tend to work harder, right? If we're working, we go to work in a happy mood. We're whistling, and people think that we're on cloud nine. And so, you know, the positive side of new relationships is that it does make us happy. It brings us hope, and so we end up trying harder, and we do grow from it. Okay. R for reminder of who you are. Your relationships serve as a reminder to remember who you are. Oftentimes, when people rush into relationships without taking the proper time to get to know someone well, they get lost in love and thus lose themselves in the process. In the early stages of a dating relationship, the initial strong chemistry and feelings of being in love sometimes takes on a momentum of its own. And if you're not careful, then you rush into physical intimacy and commitment too soon without getting to know your partner very well. Romantic love is not real love, folks. So when the friendship focus is skipped in the dating process, not only do you lose objectivity and lose yourself, but you also forfeit the development of a potential friendship leading to real love. That is why I'm a strong advocate of focusing on friendship first. before the physical intimacy aspect of a new relationship. Therefore, being self aware and taking things slowly in new relationships will keep you focused and remind you of who you are. Okay, and I just want to stop right here real quick. Um, this is important for those of us who've been on many relationships already, and we know this is true. That oftentimes when we rush into a relationship, we think we found the right one, right? And we don't take the time, which I propose 3 to 6 months to really get to know somebody well. If you rush into physical intimacy, we lose objectivity at that point. Okay, and most of the time when that happens, we also lose ourselves. Okay, we end up being so invested um in our relationships that sometimes we're so focused that we are not paying attention to our own needs, and then after a while we just lose ourselves, we forget who we are, and that's very dangerous, folks. It's not good to forget who you are, because in a relationship, contrary to what popular belief is, where it's two halves coming together, it's actually two whole people that come together as one. So when you lose yourself, then you're not whole anymore. And at that point you aren't being true to yourself. So if you think back on your last few relationships that ended, uh, you can probably agree with me on this, that you end up losing you end up forgetting who you are, and you lost yourself in the process. Okay. And folks, when you lose yourself, it makes the breakup even that much more painful, believe it or not. Because now if you lose yourself and then the relationship ends, now you gotta not only do you have to grieve the relationship and your partner, now you gotta grieve the loss of yourself. And then you gotta start all over again, and maybe go to counseling and figure out who you are, right? If you people please to the extreme, and you're doing everything to make the relationship work, okay? And you're doing everything to please your partner, but you're not focusing on your own happiness, then there's a good possibility that when the relationship ends, it'll be very, very traumatic, because you feel like you don't feel that you want to live anymore sometimes, because you've invested so much of yourself that you forgot who you are. So that's not a good frame of mind to have. And that's why it's very important that you always need to remember who you are, have those boundaries, and take your time and be patient when you are in dating somebody new. Get to know that person well, but at the same time, there's a balance, right? There's nothing wrong to try to please people or be accommodating, but you have to do it in balance, where you don't forget who you are and please people at your own expense of your own happiness. So something to keep in mind. Okay, the next letter is O for opportunity. Each relationship provides you an opportunity to learn more about others, and more importantly, learn about yourselves. Your partners are like mirrors of your souls, reflecting your hidden potential and providing a catalyst to change. The mirror shows you the parts of yourselves that you like, and the hidden areas that negatively trigger you, that is often referred to as your shadow self. Your shadow self is basically all the parts of yourselves that you want to hide and deny and reject and don't want to admit you have. This triggering provides you with the opportunity to discover the areas of growth that may need healing, so that you become more of your authentic selves. Relationships offer you the opportunity to not only recognize and to integrate those hidden subconscious areas of your shadow self, but also to bring forth self awareness, wholeness, and self acceptance. Okay, so now this is an interesting information as far as the opportunity goes. Um, I don't hear it talked about that much, but believe it or not, we all have a shadow self. We all have a shadow self, and we try to hide that from everybody, and sometimes we try to hide it from ourselves. Um, but what relationships do, when you have two people that come together, there's it since two people are not the same, they are going to trigger each other. Excuse me, let me just drop my paper here on here. They are going to trigger each other, and so when the triggering happens, um, it brings out the worst in you, right? And so those are the opportunities where you can recognize your shadow self, and then work on those areas that need to be worked on. And so it all that just makes you more whole, more healthy, and makes you the best version that you can possibly be for yourself and for others. So without that relationship dynamic, okay, you wouldn't have the opportunity to face your shadow self, right? It's only when you're in a relationship with people, that you're interacting, that this comes into play, that you're able to have that opportunity where at some point both you and your partner are going to not agree on everything, and both of you will show your shadow self. And folks, this is what happens after the romantic phase of relationship. After the first 3 months is when most of the time your shadow self will come out. Okay. And so we all have a shadow self. So it's not something that is not necessarily a negative thing. It's actually just something that's reality that we all have. And the key is to be able to recognize your shadow self, and then have the have the courage to face the challenges of overcoming some of your fears, and then becoming more authentic. Okay. The next letter is G for growing pains. Growing pains are sometimes mistakenly thought of as a punishment or consequence of a relationship failure. However, growing pains are needed to facilitate change. Change is necessary as it quietly stirs your inner being, gently tugging at your heartstrings and slowly nudging you out of your comfort zones. It's the undeniable conviction deep within your souls to embrace change and heal your heart. Relationships are not for the faint of heart. Growing pains are necessary as each relationship offers valuable lessons to help you grow and learn what it takes to succeed in relationships. And while it may be tempting for you to avoid the pain, the only way to successfully deal with growing pains is to go through them. The maturity process can be very painful sometimes, but as the saying goes, no pain, no gain. Um, Progress will always involve growing pains. Okay, so again, what relationships offer is opportunities for us to continually grow. And if you're single, you can still grow, but it's not. It's there's more potential and for growth when you're in a relationship, because you both, as I said earlier, you both will trigger each other, and when relationships fail, you can learn something from those relationships, and you grow as a result, right? And a relationship failure is never just one person at fault. There's two people at play, right? Meaning, no matter what happened, whose fault it is, there's always two people that need to take ownership of the failure of a relationship. Because unless the two people were forced or coerced into being together, they both willingly, voluntarily chose to be with each other, right? They chose to be in the relationship. So if it fails for whatever reason, both parties need to take some ownership of the failure. And so by being able to take ownership, you're able to grow. You'll be able to realize where the part that you own, that you could do better the next time, what you learned from this relationship, and move forward, right? And so um, growing pains are necessary to be able to grow, folks. Okay, the next letter is R for resilience. Relationships oftentimes challenge the status quo of the Cinderella fairy tale ending of happily ever after. Just when you think you met the right partner and have fallen in love, your rose colored glasses come off, and the reality of two flawed partners discovers that life isn't a fairy tale. You then realize you aren't perfect, and time will tell if you and your partner can work through the differences and resolve conflicts in a healthy manner. And more importantly, through your differences and resolve conflicts. Oh, I'm sorry, I messed this up. And more importantly, for as you get to know each other, you will need to evaluate if there's enough compatibility for a long-term commitment or marriage. Okay, so let me say this again. You then realize you aren't perfect, and time will tell if you and your partner can work through your differences and resolve conflicts in a healthy manner. And more importantly, as you get to know each other, you will need to evaluate if there's enough compatibility for a long-term commitment or marriage. Resilience is having the inner conviction and fortitude to withstand disappointment, holding firm in your beliefs, speaking your truth, and standing in your truth, even if it means standing alone. It's believing in yourself with an unwavering knowing and faith that you will succeed no matter what, even if that means sadly leaving a relationship behind when it's not meant to be or no longer serving your higher good. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here and just make a few comments about this. So relationships also provide you the opportunity to develop your resilience. Okay, if those of you um, who don't have resilience, if you're the kind of person that doesn't have a lot of boundaries and you're constantly letting people take advantage of you, or you're getting hurt, or you can't say no, um, relationships will help you um, get stronger in this area. Okay, having the resilience to be true to yourself, to stand up for what you believe in, even if it means standing alone. Okay. And resilience will also help you out in future relationships, because the sooner you learn to be resilient, you won't tolerate mistreatment, right? People that find themselves in toxic abusive relationships, it's because they don't have the resilience. They don't know, they don't have enough strength from within to know what they want, know what they're looking for, and to stand strong in their convictions and beliefs. That's very, very important, folks. So um and so by going through many endings of a relationship, it does, as you learn and grow, it does build resilience within you, because as you realize who you are, and you solidify what you are looking for in a partner. Okay, chances are you won't settle the next time around. Okay, so when you date again, you'll have just a better, clearer understanding of who you are, what you're looking for, and you'll be more resilient, so that so that you can make some very good decisions for yourself, and know when a relationship needs to end if the relationship is not working out for your highest good. Okay, so resilience is a benefit of having gone through many relationships. Okay, next letter is E for evolution. People are constantly changing, and as people change, the relationships will change as well. If you look back at your history of relationships, who you were and what you were looking for has changed in time. Who you were and what you were looking for 10, 30 years ago isn't the same as you are now and what you're looking for, right? With every new relationship, as you work through your growing pains and learn the lessons, you evolve into a better version of yourselves. As time goes on, you learn to give grace to others, because you understand that change is not an inevitable. I'm sorry. You Because you understand that change is just inevitable, and it's expected part of life. Relationships teach you to become more flexible, to adapt to change, and to view evolution as a never-ending integral part of your progress to success. Um, so that's something important too that we need to realize. Okay, many of us, through our fairy tales that we saw as kids, we think once two people meet, like Cinderella, they just live happily ever after, right off into the sunset, and everything will just work out perfectly, right? That's what we all were led to believe as children. But the reality is, it's not doesn't work that way. The reality is, people don't stay the same. If you think back when you're in your 20s, and then you think back when you got older, 25 and 30, who you were back then has changed, right? Then you go from 30 to 35 to 40. If you look back, same thing, right? You're not the same person that you were in your 30s. And then on up, when you get to 40s and 50s and 60s, when you look back at your span of life, you've changed tremendously, right? So how could we expect our partners not to change? Okay, and when people change, um, the relationships change, right? So we just need to be realistic about our expectations when we go into a relationship. Recognize that you may love the person who they are today, but don't be devastated or disappointed if later on down the road, 5 years, 10 years from now, they change, or you may change. Actually, matter of fact, you will change. Not may. We all will change. So just this is just something to keep in mind. Um, that relationships also provide us the opportunities to change. And especially if you've gone through many endings of relationships, you are definitely changing. Every relationship offers us opportunities to learn and grow. And as a result, we change. Okay, so another benefit of relationships ending is that you end up growing and changing, evolving to another version of yourself. And most of the time, it's going to be the better version of yourselves if you learn the lessons, okay, and put things in the proper perspective and heal. Then your learned lessons will serve as a positive thing to your as a positive um, catalyst for your personal and spiritual growth. Okay, and the next letter is S for spiritual growth. Through every relationship, you can learn to become wiser as you face your fears and challenges. Spiritual growth results when you learn what it takes mentally to overcome those fears and challenges. It's conquering it's conquering your internal struggles of wrestling with your egos while simultaneously trying to find harmony and a sense of purpose. It's finding peace in the balance between your mind and heart for the fulfillment of your highest good. Your relationships will sometimes push you out of your comfort zone and present you with the opportunities to confront your fears, to stand strong in your resolve and speak your truth. And then there are those special opportunities that come along and gently pull at your heartstrings, causing internal conviction to face your shadow self and become a better version of yourself. Thus, it is important to acknowledge that accepting and understanding your shadow self is key to your overall self growth. Okay, so again, with every relationship that fails, you do spiritually grow. Okay, because we all have a shadow self, as we talked about earlier. The relationship will trigger you. Okay, after 6 months on up, and throughout your lifetime with your partner, it's you're both constantly changing and growing, and as a result, you will get triggered, and it will produce spiritual growth because it's you think of it as an onion with the layers being peeled. As each layer gets peeled, you're confronted with another part of your shadow self, right? It could be fears that you're worried about or challenges, and these are all opportunities for you to work on those fears. And as you know, as you all most of you know, the best way to face your fears is the best way to conquer your fears is to face your fears. So again, these ending of relationships provide a spiritual growth. Okay, the next letter is letter S again. Last but not least, S for self-love. Every relationship provides the impetus towards self-love. I like to think of self-love as the hallmark of healthy relationships. Loving yourself first is critical to loving others in a healthy way to building happy, successful, long-term relationships. As a matter of fact, your relationships are your greatest teachers of self-love. To the extent of how loving your relationships are will determine how loving you are to yourselves. Let me just stop and let me repeat this again and let these sink in, okay? Your relationships are your greatest teachers of self-love. To the extent of how loving your relationships are will determine how loving you are to yourselves. That is why it is often said that your relationships are like mirrors of your self-reflection, because your choice of a partner will directly indicate how much you love yourself. So if you have a pattern of getting involved in unhealthy, toxic relationships, then it's important to heal, love yourself, and become happy. Learning to love yourself is key so you will have the discernment to choose healthier, happier, and loving partners and relationships. Okay, let me say this again. Learning to love yourself is key so you will have the discernment to choose healthier, happier, and loving partners and relationships. Okay? So it's interesting to think about this. If you let this thought sink in, okay, it's kind of sobering thought if you think about it, that um, the extent of how loving your relationships are will determine how loving you are to yourselves, and the choice of your partner will directly indicate how much you love yourself. That's pretty um, sobering words, and it really and you need to think about that. Okay? Because that's why self-love is important. If you don't love yourself, then you'll meet people, you'll attract people that won't love you either. Okay? You'll attract people that are toxic. Okay? Because if you don't love yourself, then you're not going to be happy. And then, unhappy people attract unhappy people. And unhappy people are usually toxic people. And toxic people will attract toxic people. So that's why it's important. So if you think back on your last few relationships, if they were all toxic, okay, you need to look in the mirror. Okay. While it's tempting to blame our partners who may have betrayed us or hurt us or whatever, we still chose to get into that relationship, right? If we were healthy, we would have never gone into that relationship, right? After you get to know somebody after 3 or 6 months and all the signs of a toxic person shows up, you would have ended the relationship, okay? Or you would have went to counseling. Either way. But either way, you wouldn't have tolerated it if you love yourself. So that's why I stress the importance of self-love. It's so important to love yourself because when you love yourself, you will attract better, healthier partners in the long run, and that's where you wanna be. Okay, so think of every relationship you go through as a mirror. It's a direct reflection of yourself. Okay? If you attract unhealthy people, then it's not so much attracting. If you allow unhealthy people to access your life, then realize that you're not healthy either. Okay. I'm not saying so it's not so much, when we're dating, we're gonna meet all kinds of people, right? For those of you who are dating, you're gonna meet people that are nice, that people are not nice, people that are healthy, people that are not healthy, right? If you're a healthy person that loves yourself, you will not find unhealthy people attractive. Okay. And therefore you won't entertain that relationship at all. But if you don't love yourself, then you don't know what healthy relationship is, and most likely, if you're unhealthy, you're not a very happy person. So misery loves company, right? So you'll end up attracting unhealthy, miserable people in your life, and most of the time they're going to be toxic. So it is kind of sobering of a thought, but I think it's something we all need to stop, take a moment, and think about. Okay, and if you do find out after if you think about it and the last 5 relationships have been very destructive and toxic, then you need to take some time out and either heal or do some research and find ways to and actually you check out one of the videos I posted a few weeks ago. It's called The First Step to Happiness. Okay, it's one of my previous videos. I would recommend you that you watch that video. It will get you on the right road to loving yourself, and the first step, okay, to happiness. So I highly recommend that you watch that video if you haven't seen it yet. And if you do find out after thinking about your past relationships, or if you in, or even if you're in one now, folks, okay, if you're in a toxic relationship now, you definitely both need to go to counseling. If you want to work on the relationship or if you want to end it, that's up to you. But while you're going through a toxic relationship, I'd still recommend you go watch that previous video. It's called First Step to Happiness. Okay. Check out that video. Um, and it will get you started on the road of healing. Okay. It's going to be a healing process when you start your first step. Okay. In summary, it's important to always keep in mind that failed relationships are not a waste of time, but rather a success in progress, or what I refer to as a teacher of progress. Just because a relationship ends, it doesn't mean you are a failure. It's not the end of the world. Not every relationship is meant to last forever. It has been said that people come into our lives for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. Let me say that again. It has been said that people come into our lives for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. So the next time you find yourself going through a breakup with your partner, think of your failed relationship as not a waste of time, but as your teacher of progress, leading you a step closer to success. Okay? All right, folks. Um, I know many of you who have been in the dating scene a long time, and you may have been through many, many endings of relationships. It could be very overwhelming and discouraging. I understand that. But at the same time, please go back and review this video again and realize the enormous positives that how if we can view relationships as our teachers of progress, it will definitely change your point of view and your attitude even. Okay. um I it you know and with each relationship, as you grow and you improve, you're a step closer to attracting the right partner for yourself. And with a little patience and patience for yourself, you'll eventually get there. And so it's not a race, folks. I just want us to again to remind all of us that we need to be patient. It doesn't matter if our parents want us to hurry up and get married. A lot of parents want grandkids, so they just want to keep pushing their children to get married. And although they might mean well, folks, we need to do what's right for us. Okay. I know our parents, they love us, they mean well. Most parents want grandchildren, right? So that's normal. But we also need to realize that our happiness needs to come first. Okay. We're not living for our parents or for anybody else. We are living so that we can be happy, that we can attract the right partners and build a happy life. And then if we choose to have children later, that we can actually have a wonderful family, a healthy, successful, happy family. And if we can do that, maybe we can lower the divorce rate in this world, right? That would be nice. Okay. And most of all, we can increase the happy people in this world. I think uh, there probably are a lot of unhappy people because the divorce rate, uh, is so high that if there's a lot of people divorced, they're probably very unhappy. And so, let's all try to rethink how we view a failed relationship. Think of it as a teacher of progress, and that it just takes us one step closer to success of finding that special someone who's the right partner. Okay. So, folks, if you resonate with this video, please click like and click share. If you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comments section. I will be happy to answer them. Or if you have any experiences that you want to share or what you've learned from relationships, please put that in your comments as well. We all can learn from each other. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and um, so that you can be notified of all my future videos. Okay? So, folks, thanks for watching. And until next time, I'll see you again soon.